started.
Yeah, let's do it.
First on the list is the fucking Andrew's Sons of Behemoth list.
All right, this is a joke. Let's go to the next one.
It's a joke until it's not. It's a joke.
It's a joke.
So fucking funny, yeah.
Yeah. This is a list that looks really funny until he's throwing rocks at you and doing 5 damage a pop.
All right, so
This list is going to just win the first game. Sorry if you get matched against it.
So what is the Stomper Tribe? What's that about?
So
I get +1 damage if there's 10 or more models. I get +2 damage if there's 20 or more, and that includes for any attack. So that includes rocks, that includes melee, that includes anything.
For specifically the Man Crushers, like the thing here is that the War Stomper is like the command point, like focal point basically. Very Shiny is going to give D3 extra command points, so he has those extra command points to use the special command abilities that Stomper has.
I'm locked into Stomper only command abilities too. They have different base requirements.
Yeah. Iron Will Cestus lets the big guy reroll all his saves. So I don't, it's a 4-up save, but rerolling all of them is a big increase against like low or no range attacks. And then the Man Crushers are the workhorses here. They get extra damage if you have more than 10 models, +1 at more than 10, +2 at more than 20. Which when they have, like 10 club attacks a pop, that's like 33 damage, 3 attacks if they're swinging into a model or a unit that has like 20 more models. They'll mess your day up. Not to mention, of course, the typical giant rules of all those Man Crushers count as 10 models. The War Stomper counts as 20 models. And they can ignore whatever the battle plan like specific requirements are. So all those Man Crushers can be heroes on places of arcane power. The War Stomper can capture things that normally only battle line can capture, etc. They don't count the keyword requirement for extra scoring on things like shifting objectives, where you get bonus points for having battle line near the objectives. But with only one hero and everything else being battle line, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, but they're all behemoth, which matters for focal points.
Yep.
It does matter for focal points, yes. No, they are all monsters and behemoths.
So yeah, good luck. You're 31 plus units to take care of before you can really start to regain control of objectives.
Oh,
yeah, and each of those units will give you a bad day in close combat and in range combat, because the Stomper Tribe lets them normally 1 unit of Gargants can throw rocks every turn. Not a great shooting attack, like 4s and 3s, D3 attacks, D3 damage, but they also get the +1 damage. They have 1 rank, yeah. But with the additional damage from being Stomper Tribe, and one of the command abilities the Stomper Tribe gets lets all the Gargants within 18 of the big guy do it. So they can do damage.
None of the Stomper abilities are wholly within. None of them are wholly within though. They're within 18 or within 12. So
yeah.
Only plus side is he's 6 drops.
Yeah, and so I mean, not really much you can do about that in Giants. I think the lowest you can get is 4, and then after that it's basically 6. You only have the 1 hero, but for you it doesn't really matter. The Man Crushers also can give up those rock attacks to run and charge as long as they're near the big guy. So they can also surprisingly speed around the board to get into things if they want to.
And he's got the command points to get auto run 6.
Yeah. Auto run basically everything around him 6 if he wants to. So
it's a rough list to play.
It's very flexible, very smashy. Not a lot of screening in it, so if you can, get around and get threats into things, they can't screen super well, but
deal enough damage fast enough, or you lose.
Pretty much. It's kind of a DPS check army, but also a resilience army, or like you need to be able to take a hit, otherwise they will just walk through you. All right, Brian, running one of possibly my favorite Slaves of Darkness battalion, the Plague Touch Warband. Just to start everything in the Warband, if you roll it's one of the few battalions in the game that punishes your opponent for rolling well. Every time you roll a 6 to hit them, you take a mortal wound back.
6 to wound, right?
6 to wound, yes.
In combat.
Mm-hmm. In combat. The Demon Prince has the Neural Demon Prince has the command ability that can also make you take D3 mortal wounds if you roll a single 6. It used to be every 6 to hit. Now it's like 1 6 to hit will bounce D3 mortal wounds back. So army can make you take a lot of damage in return. plus the Chaos War Shrine. The Blessing of Nurgle is just so good. Gives something +1 save and gives it rerolling wounds. So stick that on Chaos Warriors, and those Chaos Warriors are something a 3-up rerollable save that you're taking damage back from every time.
Those Chaos Knights are going to destroy you.
Yeah, Chaos Knights will walk through you. They if they get any of the buff stuff. I mean, even if you don't use the one of the best parts of the War Shrine now is that you don't have to use their God's Tip buff. You can throw out the Undivided buff to just give something rerolling hits and wounds. Granted, there's 2 Chaos Sorcerer Lords here who can do that by default. They can both hand out reroll saves. Their spell is reroll hits and wounds. So overall is a very, very tanky list, but can still also teleport 20 Marauders around to basically auto charge them into your back and shove 40 Rend 1 attacks, rerolling everything, wherever you want them.
How's the mortal wound protection on the army?
He's got a shrine.
The shrine gives everything around it a 6-up. The warriors and knights all have shields, which give them a 5-up against mortal wounds. The hero, the Chaos Lord, the Chaos Lord on Karkadrak has a built-in shrug. The Demon Prince, for being the Gentleman of Spoilers, has a shrug, has a 5-up shrug. Plus, being into spoilers, everything that's a monster will heal up every turn. So those two heroes are going to have a 5-up shrug against mortal wounds. Plus, they're going to be healing D3 basically every turn. Overall, makes it super tanky. The sorcerers aren't as tanky, but there's some other things in here like the Untamed Beast. Give that pre-game move to just get on an objective before your opponent can.
And he's 1 drop.
Yep. Untamed Beast actually can't be in the Plague Touch Warband.
So 2
Oh.
drops.
It's like,
2 drops.
2 drops, yeah. Actually, I don't know if
He said 3 drops in chat.
Yeah,
He's
I
in chat,
think
I
Demon
think.
Prince can't be in it either, so I think it's
Yeah.
3 drops, yeah.
It's just mortals.
So,
It looks like a fun list, though.
yeah, I really like this list. Like I said, it's like my favorite battalion in Slaves of Darkness book. I think it's awesome.
And then the battalion also just randomly does D3 mortal wounds in the hero phase.
Oh, yes,
On
that's
top of
true.
just
I
reflecting mortal wounds
yeah.
back in fruit wounds.
Yeah,
It's stupid fun.
it's on top of just punishing you for rolling well, it also in the hero phase has a chance of just doing mortal wounds to something that it's in melee with. Brian running Iron Jaws.
Iron Jaws brutes.
Oh yeah, the brute fist.
Yeah, there's no logic to this really. A few weeks ago I played a brute list with the brute because I like to mix things up. I don't play the same thing all the time. At least I try not to. It's hard not to take the Iron Suns though. It's just I think it's pretty good. But I like the brutes because I ran out and bought the Morgoth's Crushers to throw them in there because it's like a unit of brutes for 90 points seemed really good. So I threw them in there and I had some success a few weeks ago, just charging in and getting a mortal wound on the 4-up, and there was no metagame choice or anything like that. It's really just what I wanted to play, and what I wanted to do was take a big wall with the brute list, but I realized it doesn't really work with the way you generate wall points, and I really needed
Sure.
you need, if you're doing anything competitive, I think you need to take the big wall, mainly because you need the I feel you need the Wargog Prophet for that 4-up mortal wound to just giant boxes of units, but I didn't really take this very highly competitive, and I don't try not to take the game too competitive because I've just got other things to think about, but otherwise
It's Iron Jaws. It's going to be in your face, dealing damage.
I definitely agree with the big log stuff. We'll talk about that when we get down to Marco's list because I know he's running.
Yeah, Marco plays for keeps, so
but I really like the mega boss on foot here with the Metalworker's Claw.
He just sneaks in.
I love murdering mega bosses.
Yeah, he'll sneak in, the idea is kind of sneak him around a unit of brutes, and then if you can identify something, now I'm not very good at doing that, by the way. If you can identify something that has, high armor saves, you can get that Ren 3 going, and, he sneaks in there and starts kind of smashing on something, but, like I said, it's just for me, I don't take it too seriously, I have to change things up. I love playing Iron Jaws, it's silly fun to me, so.
It's super. They're a super fun, just smashing army.
Yeah.
And this
Well,
is gonna do that. You have plenty of bodies to just like, get board control, and then you just want to smash them into things and do as much damage as possible.
yeah, I haven't played against these giant lists at all. I've seen them. I've seen a few games of them online, and like I don't know what the fuck to do about that. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure how that's gonna go. So
Like Dawson said, just deal enough damage before they hurt you.
Yeah.
I'll get on that.
You gotta get into them and murder. And I'll say one of the best part about Iron Jaws is the fact that as long as you can consistently get those kills, then you can keep activating ahead of them. And like, so against some lists really well. Like you're probably gonna.
If it's a list with a bunch of small model count units, it's gonna go poor.
I was gonna say you might struggle to wipe out like one of those full groups of 3 giants or stuff on in one activation, but if you get like 5 brutes into one of the individual gargants, you could probably ping from like from brute to brute.
Yeah.
Going into things like that, but.
It's the big one I'm worried about. It's just like that fucker's just
The big one is the one to be worried about. The big things that have good saves, but I mean, like having that 3 rend would actually turn off the War Stomper's rerollable saves because he goes from 4 up to a 7 up, so you can't reroll that. That said, that's a 1 on-foot Mega Boss versus a War Stomper, so.
I don't think you can put it 30 damage.
He's gonna get kicked across the battlefield.
How many wounds does the Mega Boss have?
More than you can pick up and throw them at somebody else.
Oh.
You can't put him in no bags or anything.
No. The War Stomper has a different table. He gets bonuses to his roll.
Yeah, he gets like +4, but he still has to roll double their wounds. So
yeah.
You can't like I think
Mega Boss throws them at somebody else.
So.
Yeah, on a 4+, I throw you and I throw you within 12 inches, and you do mortals to that unit, to that target unit.
Which actually we didn't talk about. It's also another tricky thing. The War Stomper can also do that at any point in the combat phase. It's just in the combat phase, not when he activates. So he's like before anyone swings, he can do it. He can wait till after everyone swings to break your coherency. Like War Stomper can kind of just pick somebody up at any point in the combat phase and chuck them around.
It's also a trap.
Yeah, same thing with stuff in a bag. I can pick out models and break coherency, etc.
Ghost worst enemy, giant bags.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. So I think it'll be a good time.
A different giant list.
Yeah, this one, the other end of the spectrum, we have a 3 Mega Gargant list with 3 Man Crushers for the battle line. So here, this one's in the Breakers, which is the one I really enjoy. The Fierce Loathing here, I think Shiny Hands is the one that if they have a good save, they get +1 to hit. Basically, what this does is it gives the whole arm, all the Man Crushers and Gate Breakers get +1 to hit against a specific thing based off of what their Fierce Loathing is. I believe Shiny Hands is like a 4 up or better save. And then the General here has one that gives him an extra Fierce Loathing, but it only works for the General. But this one's Bossy Pants and Clever Cog, so it also gets +1 to hit against heroes and wizards. The artifacts are just a 6 up Feel No Pain, which on 35 wounds, so it's pretty, and it's only a 6 up, but it's 35 wounds. But this one's definitely going to be more. Only has 4 units, 4 drop. It's like I said, this is the minimum drops for a giant list. You got 3 Mega Gargants, and you got 1 group of 3 Man Crushers. It's as few drops as you can get. The Gate Breakers also do work. They're the most killy of the big Gargants by far. They have Rend 3 and Damage 3 on all of their their weapon attacks. They do only hit on 4s in comparison to the other Mega Guards hitting on 3s, but they're when they get attacks through, they're pretty killing. And something that Andrew mentioned in the chat about his list as well. All these Mega Gargants can also just walk over anything that doesn't have a bunch of wounds. If it has 10 or less wounds and you train that's 4 inches or less, they can just walk over them. They can only walk over when they're doing a regular move. They can't charge over them, but it's still, if you lock them into combat, they're not really locked into combat, so they'll just walk. If they want to walk out of combat, they'll just walk over you to wherever they want to go. Also, 2 Gate Breakers in here for murdering stuff, and then a Kraken Eater in here for that kicking around the objective. Kicking around the objective, really strong on some battle plans because you can either just kick it away from your opponent all game, or you can kick it somewhere where your opponent will score less even if they do grab it. Very good on some battle plans. And all of these Mega Gargants actually have ranged attacks. The Gate Breakers have like a 18-inch -3 rend 4 damage cannon basically bolted to their arm. Hits on a 3, wounds on a 2. And the Kraken Eater just has a hyped up version of the Man Crusher's rock throwing, where it does it's like 3 attacks for 4s and 3s, -1 damage, D3 to hit with like 24 inches. So another list that can pretty much do damage to you at every phase of the game. They'll hit you in the shooting phase, they'll charge and do mortal wounds, and then they'll swing and melee. Maybe slightly more resilient than the other giant list, just because of the better saves on the Mega Gargants, but also less board control, and again, like no screening ability. Like your screening is the fact that you're gigantic. If something's going to get into combat with you, they're going to get into combat with one of your units. I keep telling him to run the Winter Ranger, but Dan unfortunately did not listen to me and decided he was going to run Blood Call instead. Which is fine. Dan's been taking this list out a little bit recently. It is your par for the course Blood Call list. You got your Frost Lord here, because you never leave home without him with ogres. You have Black Clatter Horns, so those horns are hitting on a 3 and giving the artifact reroll. Hit rolls, wound rolls, and save rolls. Once per game from hero phase to hero phase. Only worked on the spear, but you're really doing it for the save rolls, because that Frost Lord on a 3 up rerolling their saves makes it really tanky to throw it into something and then pop that, make it stick around for at least another turn so you get some healing off. Slaughtermaster and Butcher here to take advantage of Blood Gullet getting their extra cast. Slaughtermaster gives that nice extra 6 inch, or like the extra 3 inches on piling to everything within 12 inches from the command trait. Got your Tyrant down there for the battalion, has the artifact that as long as he kills something, everything around him's healing up. So Tyrant doesn't have a lot of damage output, but has pretty consistent low damage output. So as long as he's killing something, everything around him's healing up. Then you got your blob of meat, your 12 buttons, a lot of wounds, 48 wounds, super efficient, real bad save, but when they go into something, they will flatten it if they get a bunch of their attacks in. Anything that has like a medium to bad armor save is wants to stay away from those buttons. And then you obviously have your Iron Guts, which are just like probably point for point just the killiest thing that ogres have, besides maybe a Frost Lord on Stonehorn. 4 Iron Guts will put work into basically whatever they swing into. Like 3 attacks each, maybe 4 attacks each. I don't remember. 3s and 3s, -1 damage, -1 rend, 3 damage a pop. Basically, just a whole lot of meat in this list, whole lot of wounds, and Battalion I think is just here for the extra artifact and for lowering his drops. I think it brings him down to not a super low drop, I think 5 drops here. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I think this is 5 drops. And with the extra command point, he's gonna be starting with 3. So, Daniel, I believe this is the not shooting McShoot face, but the
This is Zoomy Boys.
Zoomy Boys. That's it. His list will blow you up, or will blow up by turn 2.
Yes.
There's 3 Doom Wheels here. All of them can put out an insane amount of damage output when they're buffed, and they can also get into the back of your army turn 1. It doesn't matter where they are on the board. They will just zoom across the board, or they'll go nowhere if he rolls real bad. But those Doom Wheels will get somewhere and will shoot something.
Oh yeah, their movement's random, right?
It's 46 inches of movement, plus 3 for the battalion, and then one of them will move twice that.
Oh wow.
Is this the thing where they're all in the 1 battalion, like the super battalion, or?
So it's 3 drops because the acolytes aren't in the super battalion.
Gotcha. Okay. Besides that, you have your engineer, your bombardier, and your arch warlock, all your heroes to throw out more warp stuff, and to potentially blow themselves up when they shoot. You got warp lightning cannons, which are going to kill stuff and going to blow themselves up, almost guaranteed. And then I actually don't know what all the Sky Battalions do. I feel like I haven't seen them very much.
So the Warp Convocation is attacks. It does literally nothing. It's just I have to pay 60 to take the whole list.
Gotcha.
Then I say that, and I'm gonna go look and be wrong. The Arch Spark Voltic is that I can reduce the charge roll for 1 Warp Lightning Cannon when I fire it by 1. Because the way warp lightning cannons work is you roll a dice, and then you have to roll 6 dice that are equal to or higher than what you rolled to mortal wound for each one that works like that. So with the battalion, I can reduce that charge roll by 1.
You don't
And
need
then
that.
the world,
You always roll ones.
yeah, you know, if it's either 1s or 6s. That's the way I play. And then Whirlblade Threshik is everybody in that battalion, which is the 3 Doom Wheels, the Doom Player, and the engineer, the regular engineer, and the Storm Fiends that you can't see because they're at the bottom of the list in the dark there. All move an extra 3 inches as long as they start wholly within 13 inches of either the engineer or the Arch Warlock.
I almost missed Storm Fiends down there. The Storm Fiends are always, even 3 of them. I think they're still like the setup where you have to take, each one has to have a different weapon configuration, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah.
Like the one with the rattling guns, one with the mortars,
And one with the fists.
yeah.
They're
Scryer
tanks. I hate them.
Yeah, Scryer Acolytes, the really short range, but murdery when things walk into that range. Not
Can
as
run
murdery when
and
things
run and shoot.
They can run and shoot.
Yep.
And then obviously the MVP of the list, the Doom Player.
Hey, he killed 2 ghosts.
Oh man. Hey, and you know, we're here for it. I'm excited to see what the Doom Player kills the tournament. If anything. All right, David's also escaping time list. I think this one is a bit more shooty McShoot face than that one, than the last one. This is more your typical. He has 5 rattling guns, and is going to try to walk up the board murder you with them. Unfortunately, not going to have the Kragnos rules where you can hide those in clan rats. Yeah, there aren't any clan rats because this is an all scryer list. You got your minimum 5 acolytes each for battle line up there, plus a big group of 6 Storm Fiends, all decked out in their ranged weapons. With I think the Jazales are, I think there's 6 Jazales for 280, and then one Doom Wheel and then a bunch of rattling guns and a Warp Lightning Cannon. So a bit of more of a mix of Scryer stuff, but this is really Lissa just wants to walk up and overcharge everything and just try to out damage whatever it's up against before it gets walked over, because there's not a lot of bodies or wounds in this list. But very fun, very Skaven-esque. You know, the very just like the last one, very Scryer in that it's either gonna wipe out 75% of your army turn, like 1 and 2, or it will wipe out 75% of itself in those same turns, or both. Dimitri running the 1-drop, the old Stormcast shooting 1-drop. So for those who don't know, this is a super battalion. There's 2 smaller battalions that go into the auxiliary chamber. It's very specific. The list is very tight. Does not have a lot of room for deviation or to fit everything into said super battalion, but it makes it a 1-drop. You have your slew of Stormcast heroes over here. Knight Azra's for rerolls. The Lord of Quiller I believe that's the one that can hop around the battlefield really quick. You have your 3 sets of 5 Vanguard Hunters, which are the Stormcast Rangers with the short crossbows that can deep strike 7 inches away as opposed to 9. They're a decent threat for good for capturing objectives. You have your Vanguard Raptors with long strike crossbows. They're going to come down and just try to snipe out your heroes. He is running anvils, which lets him shoot or fight in the hero phase with a command point. Unfortunately, with all the Vanguard for this list, the Vanguards have to be split up, so it's not as effective as having like one big blob at 9 that you're double shooting with. But with so many command points he's going to start with, he also has some room to double tap with them a little bit more liberally. Aether Wings are just really annoying. They're in your charge phase, you being the opponent. They get to move 2d6 as long as they end with an 18 or one of those Vanguard Raptor units. They can just move into combat with you into like your engagement range before you get a chance to charge, and then you're not charging anything because you're already in combat with those Aether Wings. And you'll kill them because they're like 2 wounds a pop with no save, but you'll lose that turn of getting into what you want to get into. So Very precise list. I know Josh was running a very, I think almost exactly identical to this list for a while.
Yep. Yep.
And it's very precision-based list. You gotta really use your drops to get board control, because you obviously with Stormcast you can keep a bunch of them up in the air, bring them down where you want, like deploy them out where you want to, and just kind of use a bunch of screening and range damage to try to whittle away your opponent's big threats while you can kind of like almost spread them out in every direction and kind of keep control of the board.
Yeah, so if I have range attacks, would I want to shoot those Aether Wings?
Depends on the kind of range attack. Typically, if you have a range attack that will actually kill things, it's probably better if you can shoot the Vanguard Raptors than just shoot them.
The key is to spread out what you're going to charge into combat with, so that he can't send one unit of Aether Wings to stop everything from charging.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you can tag everything you have charging with one set of Aether Wings, and gets a good enough roll on it, then you're losing out. But it depends on what kind of range you're bringing. Like, if you're bringing something that can genuinely kill those,
right.
Like, the Vanguard Raptors are also too
Mortec crawlers.
What's that?
The Mortec crawlers.
With crawlers not having rend, it's a bit of a. I mean, if you roll well, one crawler can kill all three groups of Aether Wings in like one round of shooting. So it's probably not. I mean, it really depends on your battle plan and what your goal here is. Because I mean, everything else in the list has a 4-up save. So with that no red on crawlers, you're kind of going to be gambling a little bit on getting the shots through. But I mean, even if one shot gets through into a unit of Vanguard Raptors, that's 2.5 dead. Like they're also only 6 wounds each. So if he fails one armor save, then you're basically killing that unit.
The army also has no mortal wound protection whatsoever.
Yeah. So if you have a good way of dealing ranged mortal wounds, you can shoot through the wounds on this army really quick. But that's also assuming that he doesn't deploy in such a way where he tries to snipe out your mortal wounds damage dealers before you have a chance to, or how spread out. Like this can also be very spread out depending on how you put on what the battle plan is. Doesn't need to be have a lot together in one place. So very precise list, kind of a classic.
Sorry, forgot I was driving.
Yeah. Marathon. The first list everyone's gonna love. Yep. You have everyone's favorite frog, Lord Croakier. In his final run before Kragnos gives him
A good buff.
upgrade. Yeah, we'll go with upgrade. I do like to see the old blood on Carnosaur here. I love the old blood on Carnosaur. I think it's great. And it's actually something that might actually get to kill something with the Serpent God Dagger that you get from Fangs.
Glass cannon with the finest glass.
Yeah. Not very durable. That Carnosaur falls over real quick, but if it gets into something, especially when it's not wounded, it can murder stuff. The Carnosaur has a really good damage profile when it's at max wounds, but it loses those wounds real quick. The Great Star Priest hands out mortal wounds on 6s to wound. Also has a -1 to be hit spell. Skink Priest uses all those command points that Lord Croak's just going to be vomiting out in order to give your skinks +1 to hit, and also has that prayer roll to give him +1 save and run and charge/shoot. 70 skinks. All their listed javelins here, I believe. They're all bolt spitters. You got Ripperdactyls, which those are going to be in the Shadow Strike Star Host, which is the one that lets you deep strike is that right? No, Shadow Strike.
Deep strike anything in the battalion, which is the 220 unit skins,
yes.
the Star Priest and the Rippers.
Yeah, the Star Host is the deep strike. The Temple Host is the +1 hit.
Yeah.
Ever since they split those out, Seraphon always messes me up. But lets you deep strike those skinks. In addition to obviously being Fangs of Sotek and being Starborn, is going to have that free teleport once per round. It's going to move around somewhere. Two Bastillodons, unrendable until you put some mortal wounds into them. Everyone's favorite clear-cut, totally not confusing rule.
I still don't get that rule. What's up with that rule?
Here's the deal. When you get rend, What rend modifies is the dice roll of the save. It doesn't change your save characteristic. So whatever the save characteristic on the war scroll is, that's what you have to roll equal to or better to pass your save. Well, the save characteristic of the Distillodon is 1, and the rules state that you can't ever reduce a roll to lower than 1. Well, 1 is equal to or greater than 1, so it passes unless you roll a natural 1, which fails.
And a natural one only fails because the rules say an unmodified 1 always fails.
Right.
So even though you could roll a 2 and then have it get lowered with -1 rend to a 1, though that would pass, but if you roll a natural 1 with no rend against it, it would still fail.
Yes.
However, they do lose that because their save has brackets. So once they get to 3 wounds taken, it goes up to a 2-up, which basically means the 1-up no longer applies, which means rend would apply after that point.
It's a dumb rule. Hopefully it changes at some point in the future because this is the only place it happens.
It's a dumbly worded. It's the way they applied the rule. It's the way they applied the rule.
3 rules that make sense, but then you combine
Yes.
them in one paragraph that is confusing.
Yes, if it had just been like not bracketed off, like if it had just been like this model does not doesn't ignores save modifiers until it's taken 3 wounds, if it has 3 wounds or less taken, that would be much simpler than relying on people to go look at the core rules to understand how 1-up works here, because it's also the only place where that applies. Because if you wound on a your wound characteristic is a 1-up. I don't think the same logic applies. I'd have to go double check that. But anyways, you have 2 Bastillodons here. They'll hold anything without rend up almost indefinitely, especially if you throw Mystic Shield on them. Or use one of your 1,000,000 command points in Seraphon to just re-roll their save rolls of 1 in the combat phase.
Yep.
So very, very annoying to shoot through. And then, of course, you have Bound Geminids. Probably the best endless spell currently that is for generic for your armies, and it's even better when your opponent never gets a choice to move it and only you do. So
Bound tax means nothing.
yeah, it's 10 points more expensive to basically remove all the risk from an endless spell. So why would you not?
Exactly. Now the focus of the list is the 70 skinks though. Just load them up, make them 4s and 5s, 6s on wounds or mortal wounds. Give them +1 saves so they're 4-up, run, shoot, Overwatch ability. This list is, I don't want to get into combat with you, but I will shoot you down.
And if you ever start losing skinks, Coalesce can always just keep summoning more with those summoning points you can generate. So Nighthaunt. This is this list. I believe it's not running either of the new Nighthaunt sub factions. It's running a more traditional. You have your Knight of Shrouds here as general. It is running the new hero for Nighthaunt, where if he kills something, he can make their death save like a 5-up against wounds. Excited to see how that turns out. He has the Guardian of Souls Beacon, Shade Mist, of course. Gives something -1 to wound. Pendant of the Fellwind on the Dreadblade Hero, that'll bounce around and also give extra movement to everything around it. Then you have, a big block of Chain Rasp, a big block of Hexwraith, a big block of Spirit Hosts, and a Black Coach. And then, of course, wrapped up in Death Rider. So this list is going to be one that wants to just deploy out in front of the opponent, look for some nice charges with the Hexwraith and the Black Coach to do some damage, and then just bog things down with bodies with the Spirit Host and Chain Rasp to grab objectives. And just live long enough to win on those objectives. Not a whole lot of mortal wound protection, but if the Cruel Gas can get in behind those Hexwraiths before they get their charge off, and buff out their save, then 10 Hexwraiths, especially with them regenerating from the Black Coach and from the Knight of Shrouds,
And getting a free attack on a 9 charge.
Yeah, on a 9 to charge, or even the Spirit Host. Once the Black Coach and that General get rolling, the Spirit Hosts are hard to get rid of permanently when he's bringing back a number of a few of them each turn. So
yeah, so they can bring back models or units.
Yeah,
models, not units.
Okay.
Yeah, so they can't bring back units. The rule of the Spirit Host lets the General bring back D3 models to a nearby unit, which for Spirit Host will bring back full 3-wound models. The Black Coach, I believe, also once it gets to a high enough, it has
level 3.
Yeah, it has tiers that it levels up through that you roll for each battle round. It can get to level 3 on if you're really lucky, turn 1, but on average, turn 2. And then it can also start regenerating models that are around it. So, you can get that Spirit Host squad down to like 3 models and then have it be back up to like 7 after their hero phase. So, Guardian of Souls also can cast a spell to regenerate, to heal wounds in a unit, but that's going to be more used on the Chain Rasp board where it can bring back full models of Chain Rasp. And of course, everything that applies there to the Spirit Host could also apply to the Hex Race, because you could just bring back Hex Race models instead of their dead.
Oh, you're.
But if you do manage to eliminate a unit, it's gone for good.
Yes, if once your unit's gone, it's gone for good. And like most death lists, the heroes here are the squishy things that you want to get rid of. They're what make the whole army work. So once the general's gone, that's a bunch of regeneration gone. The Guardian of Souls is gone, that's their magic gone. If the Black Coach is gone, that's that regeneration gone. So, they also have some teleporting shenanigans with the Dreadblade Hero, where they can kind of, even after they deep strike in that first time, the Dreadblade Hero can teleport somewhere else and then kind of pick them up and move them somewhere else. Actually, I think they have to be the general to do that.
No, the Dreadblade has it on the worst roll. Additionally, the Knight of Shrouds can do it.
Okay.
As far as them teleporting themselves.
Right.
It's
the dragging unit to them requires the
yeah. The Dread Hero can teleport himself. The Knight can pull things to him.
Yeah.
As the general.
This is the list that Jason will not be attending the tournament, so we can go past this one. We'll go. I'll bring up CJ's at the end and go over what's in it. Tzeentch list. This is the Archaon Tzeentch list. This is there's 1,200 points here in 2 models. You got Archaon, you got Kairos. Archaon's packing Treacherous Bond, so he can shove off all of his wounds and mortal wounds onto whatever mortal unit's closest to him in the hero phase. For those who don't know how it works, basically he's gonna auto cast Treacherous Bond, or he can just cast Treacherous Bond. He picks a mortal unit that's wholly within 9 inches when he casts it. On like every time he takes a wound or mortal wound on a 3-up, he can pass it off to them. So he can cast it on a unit and then walk away from it. You have a Chaos Sorcerer Lord here who can give Archaon reroll hits and wounds and reroll saves. So he's rerolling all of those hits and wounds and rerolling his 3-up save. You have Kairos here with a spell portal to reach across the map and blow something up every turn. Lords of Change, including Kairos, can auto-dispel an endless spell that's within 15 inches of them every hero phase, so he will just pick up whatever, he'll just pick up the spell portal from wherever it is, recast it in front of him, and then auto-cast his spell to do like a flat 6 mortal wounds through it. Tzeentch offers a lot of shenanigans to guarantee Archaon gets those charges. He can auto Slayer of King something if he gets 2 6s and wants to make sure that some hero goes away. Whole lot of play between Archaon and Kairos, and also Kairos' ability to just change a dice once a game for whatever result he wants. A lot of play between those models. Very killy list, makes Archaon very threatening. Not a lot of bodies for objectives, but the Chaos Warriors are pretty durable. The 5 Chaos Warriors, if nothing else, are basically a 10 extra wounds for Archaon to make sure he doesn't get sniped by anything and can walk across the board for free. The Sorcerer Lord in Host Arcanum does get a command trait that lets things that fly move before the battle round starts. So Archaon gets a pregame move plus I think up to 2 more things depending on what he rolls. And he gets to summon 6 Screamers for free, so that's another just screening unit that he can fast objective grabbing screening unit that he can put out to either screen his Archaon, screen his Kairos, or just run across the board for an objective. Host Arcanum also gives him an auto unbind on the 1st, 3rd, and 5th turn. So watch your cast whenever you're playing against this on this odd numbered rounds, because he does get 1 auto unbind that he does not have to roll for from any of his casters. So, and then of course Kairos has 3 casted unbinds where he gets the Lord of Change shenanigans where he just turns the lowest dice to the highest dice. So don't expect to get many spells off if you're within range of Kairos to begin with. If you have something that you really need to get off, he'll just auto-unbind it with whatever's around. Beyond that, also, the Darkfire Demon Rift has to be cast from the Sorcerer Lord, but can do a bunch of mortal wounds, especially if you have a bunch of spells or wizards in your army, because it just does flat extra mortal wounds based off of the number of wizards and spells nearby. Archaon obviously can ignore it on a 4-up, and then also ignore any mortal wound he might take from it if it goes over him on a 4-up. So it's not really a threat to throw next to Archaon and just have it running around him, or have Archaon throw it out next to himself and then just have it go around and do mortal wounds around him, because it's not, even if you turn it against him, it's not going to do much. So I don't think there's any defect here, so I think the Marauders with flails are mostly just either to be extra wounds for Archeon or just more screening. Really, Archeon and Kairos are going to be doing most of the work here. Archeon's your big melee threat, and Kairos is your big magic threat.
So Archeon doesn't even need to be by the unit. He's going to be shrugging off wounds.
He only needs to be near it when he casts. So so he can cast, walk away from them, and then later, until his next hero phase when he has to cast it again, he can still keep just pawning wounds off on that unit. So, as far as I'm aware, they don't need to stay within range. And here we have another flavor of Archeon list. There's the corn one. We have Reapers of Vengeance for that sweet Archeon double attack. This one, instead of running Archeon and Kairos, you got Archeon and Scarbrand running around. And Archeon and Scarbrand, just both very killing Reapers of Vengeance. There's that command ability they can activate to, if there's anything still alive within 3 inches when they're done attacking, they just immediately pile in and fight again. Scarbrand obviously super murdery, so long as he is low on wounds or can activate his ability that he didn't fight in one of the previous rounds. So very murdery. Scarbrand's much less durable than Archeon, but can do a ton of mortal wounds, especially if he's in range of that Blood Secretor to get extra attacks. I think Scarbrand's Carnage does like a flat 8 mortal wounds unless he rolls above a 6, or like rolls a 6 on the dice, and then it's a 16 mortal wounds, and he does get extra attacks from it from the Blood Secretor. So, if he's swinging at his best, aka most wounded profile, he's basically doing almost a guaranteed 16 mortal wounds, or at worst like 32 mortal wounds. Very nasty, but the thing to really watch out for here, it is the Khorne Demon Prince. Has a command ability that will have the movement, or not have the movement, the run and charge rolls of any enemies within 18 of it when they make a run or charge roll. That means if you're within 18 of the Demon Prince while that's active, you cannot make a charge from more than 6 inches away. It makes charging much, much more difficult into this army. And it only has, like the 3 groups of Blood Reapers for screens, but if it throws them out forward and has the Khorne Prince walking up right behind them, then you have to basically be on top of those units or at minimum distance to guarantee you're going to get that charge. And even then, a 3-inch charge becomes a 6-inch charge. And I know everyone here has rolled Snake Eyes on a charge before, and your odds of doing that goes up from Snake Eyes to anything on like a 4 or below, or 5 or below.
And that's an 18-inch bubble.
18-inch bubble from the Demon Prince.
Wow. Man.
Yeah, it's really good. One Slaughter Priest in here with Killing Frenzy for that +1 to hit. Can go on Scarbrand, can go on Archeon, whatever it needs to, and then also a War Shrine to give out +1 to save. Puts Archeon on a 2-up save. Archeon also can cast Mystic Shield and Arcane Bolt, although he is gonna, like the Blood Secretor and Skull Altar does reduce his casting. The Blood Secretor makes him reroll his own cast. So Archeon typically isn't gonna be a cast in this list. You're typically taking him to go be a beatstick and murder stuff. But this list does have them go and murder stuff very effectively. And then, like I said, you have your 30 Blood Reapers, which are just your battle line, and you have to basically sit in the way and generate you with Blood Tides to either do fun stuff on Archeon to Scarbrand, or to summon more units if you need some quick objective grabbing later in the game. Give me Tzeentch list. This list is Lizard dies off the Flamers. So he's running the Internal Conflagration. That's the list where all your pink horrors and your flamers get an extra rend on their shooting attacks. He has a Lord of Change just to get that command trait, which, for those who don't know, in a Tzeentch army, any demons that are wholly within 12 inches of a demon hero are -1 to be hit in melee. The command trait also makes it work in shooting. So this army is a little more resilient to shooting than other armies. Has a change caster, just to add into the horror unit count, and a changeling for the same reason. Because as you see, once we get down to the flamers, 1 group of 9, 1 group of 6. A unit of 3 flamers can put serious hurt into a unit. 15 flamers can really, really mess up your day. They are also battle line internal conflagrations, so they are going to be counting as his battle line in this list. His 10 Kyric Acolytes outside his battalion just to short up the rest of the points. 1 Exalted Flamer just to give out +1 to hit to the Flamers. And then 6 Screamers and 2 units of 3, so he can fill out his Change Host. The Change Host basically gives him the Seraphon ability of teleporting 1 unit around in the hero phase each turn, so he can just teleport those Flamers right down your throat and start unloading fire into you. Really shooty list, really killy. No pink horrors in the list, so more of a squishy like precision list based off of just either murdering his opponent with the sheer amount of shooting he has, or dying very quickly in response. Can still summon screens in with fate points, you know, with if you have like this. I think this list has 5 casts in it per turn between the heroes. You only need 10 to summon 10 blue horrors, assuming your opponent's not doing any casting. You can still summon in screens to kind of do some objective grabbing and things like that. But I mean, even without teleporting, those flamer units have like a 27-inch threat range, and will pretty much still meet whatever they look at. So those are definitely the things to watch out for. Lumineth, everyone's favorite Techless list. So we have the Lumineth list here. Obviously, everyone, Techless. For anyone who has not had the pleasure of playing against Techless, he is he's fantastic for his points. In my opinion, he's fantastic for his points. There's a lot of conflicting opinions, but he can auto cast 4 things at a 10. He gives out a 4-up shield against magic that will also bounce mortal wounds back against you. So don't try to do magic against this list, against anything near Techless. He'll just bounce, like on a 4-up, they not only ignore the spell, they'll bounce mortal wounds back at you. His built-in spells can do mortal wounds to everything within 18 inches, which can go through spell portal. So it's something to watch out for. Turn 1 is Techless just throwing mortal wounds at you in a big old bubble on the first turn. He gives out a 5-up Field of Pain with one of his spells to everything wholly within 18. And he also can cast any of their spells. And Lumineth has a bunch of really good spells, including doubling something speed, giving it ethereal, teleporting it somewhere else on the map. Just a bunch of utility in Techless. As long as he's on the board, he's very good at dominating the Magic game, because he also gets an auto unbind every turn. So if you only have 1 cast in your army, and Techless is within range, just assume you're never going to get it off. Cathalar is basically the bane of enemy hordes. Besides just being a decent caster, has a good built-in spell that can make a unit have to take a bravery check every time it wants to do anything, and if it fails, it doesn't get to do that. Really good against low bravery armies, because it can basically just turn a unit off from hero phase to hero phase. Silver Wand gives it an extra cast to do stuff on top of that. Cathalar's main gimmick, though, is that if an allied unit with an 18 needs to take a battle shock test on a 2-up, they don't need to take it, and whatever casualties they have can get bounced on an enemy unit that has to take a battle shock test. So it can't make a unit that hasn't lost any models take a battle shock test, but if you are taking a battle shock test, he can make you take one for all your casualties and his casualties. So very nasty, something to very. You have to be within 18 of the Cathalar for it to bounce the battle shock onto you. So so there's something to keep in mind as you're playing against it, that if anything within 18 of him is at risk of getting battle shocked off by whatever damage they do to something. Lord Regent is just a great beatstick hero, and also he has a built-in -1 to be hit as long as he has an Aether Quartz, and a +1 to cast his built-in spell, which can give D3 units their Sun-Metal weapons on a 5-up. For those who don't know, as we get to the 60 bodies in the list, all the Venari stuff is -1 to hit until they walk out of Shiny Company. They can't run or charge while they're in Shiny Company, and they have to stay to the point where their models are face to face with 2 other models. So if they ever break that when they're pulling models, or when during like a pile-in move or a regular move, then they lose Shiny Company, and they can't get it again until they set up again, which can be done with the teleport, but otherwise they lose it for the rest of the game. But it's something to be careful. Like, it slows them down a lot, because they can only pile in an inch while they're in Shiny Company. They can't run, so if they start a move in Shiny Company, they can't run to break it. They have to move out of Shiny Company to then do something afterwards. They also can't charge out of it. So if they end a move in Shiny Company, then they can't use the charge afterwards to break Shiny Company. So there are limitations behind it, but with things that be capable of deep striking them and doubling their speed, lets them really get around the board faster than you think, just to grab objectives. Can be kind of squishy depending on if they get caught out or not. But as long as they have that Aether Quartz to bump their saves up, because in Sire they all get a bonus Aether Quartz. which means that when they get attacked, they can pop 1 or 2 with a command point to give themselves +1 or 2 to save for that combat round, making them really durable, especially with that 5-up after save for 1 or 2 rounds of combat. But when they're swinging back, doing mortal wounds on 5s on like 40 attacks, most of it, like they typically only need 1 or 2 combats or like rounds in combat or to kind of murder whatever would be deleting them. So Merlin Legion wraps all this up, so it becomes a 3-drop. I think only Teclis and the Venari Lord Regent are outside of the battalion. It gives them all reroll 1s to save as long as they're near each other. Spell Portal. Teclis can use it to bounce his Searing White Light to the other side of the board and do a big 18-inch bubble of mortal wounds around that. Or to bounce some other spell that he wants to get out. Like there's another version of the spell that makes you take a bravery check to do anything. And throw that across the board. Rune of Petrification, he'll just throw between you in order to stop you from running and charging. Do some mortal wounds out, and it does do mortal wounds at the start and end of the movement phase, so it's like a light version of the Skaven spell, the Warbite Vortex. Lots of damage in the start and end of the movement phase. And the Twin Stones is basically what they cast in order to make sure they always get a spell off. Because it basically gives out a +1 to cast, and then every time they can use what the charges in it to give themselves like plus whatever to cast based on how many charges there are, and every time they use it, every time they successfully cast, they add a charge to it. As long as they just keep using it, it's always giving them an extra +1 to cast. Which Teclis gives them an innate +1 to cast as they're in his aura, putting them all at like +2 to cast or more if he saves up charges. So lots of casting in the army. Everything's a wizard. I think the only things I failed to mention was that of the spells and the spellers to look out for, there's also one that makes you spend 2 command points for everything you want to do. That would normally take 1, or it gives you -2 bravery across the board. So very dangerous for MSU armies or armies that rely on command points or armies that have not great bravery.
You might also want to mention Goading Arrogance.
Oh yes, the command trait from Syar. The Lord Regent has a very nasty command trait, especially for those Archeon lists or something like that. If you are within 6 inches of the Lord Regent at the start of combat, he can make you only able to attack him, even if you're not within range or engaged with that model. So if that Venari Lord Regent is sitting 5 inches behind a group of Wardens, and your Scarbrand or your Archeon or your Mega Boss or something charges into the front of those Wardens and gets within 6 inches of it, you will not be able to attack, because you won't be able to swing into the only thing you can attack, which is the Lord Regent, and it's too far. So you will essentially lose all of your attacks if you get within Goading Arrogance and cannot reach the Lord Regent. Marco's Big Log list. I love this. I love a Big Log. And this is a list that's very similar to one that I was running not too long ago. You have your Mega Boss and Maw Crusher with Brutish Cunning, so he's going to be able to Mighty Destroy himself every turn. Which is either if he's within 3 inches, he can fight. If he's within 12 inches, he can charge. Or if neither of those is true, then he can move. Makes the Maw Crusher very fast, and with Metal Ripple's Claw to give himself -3 rend. He will tear through most things that he gets into, especially because of War Chanter buff on him. Weirdnobz gives him a 4-up shrug against spells, which is really good in the current meta of just debuffing things or just doing a bunch of spell damage. 2 War Chanters, because you never leave home without them. Give out +1 damage to an Iron Shaw's unit near him. With 2 War Beats for either giving him something an 18-inch charge or healing it up a bit. 1 Weirdnobz Shaman, by default, just to have the teleport spell. If you deep strike one of those units of Ard Boys, anywhere on the board, they're really only looking for a 6-inch charge because they have +3 to charge, and they have +2 innately, and then +1 from your log points. A Wardock, just to babysit those Savage Orcs. 30 Savage Orcs is 60 wounds that can, with the Cunning Beast Spirits and the Prayer from the Wardock, get up to a 3-up save in combat, 4-up save outside of combat if both go. damage. So the Art Boys are probably more the turn 2 or 3 threat, whereas the Mega Boss on Mock Crusher and the Core Crunchers are your more turn 1, probably more turn 2. Big Walk does typically need an extra turn to generate walk points. With this list, even using the command ability, he'll probably get on average somewhere between like 12 to 13 walk points turn 1, I think. Which isn't quite enough to get the +1 to hit and wound, which is what you really want before you start, swinging into melee with Big Walk. A number of drops. I think only the Gore Grunters and Art Boys are in the Iron Fist, so you still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 drops. So won't outdrop a lot of armies, but also doesn't particularly care because it's not looking to either do a bunch turn 1, or even if you charge into a turn 1, you can probably get it 6-up save turn 1 on those, and we'll just screen you out with those Savage Orcs or put them on an objective that he wants to hold. Daughters of Cain, the Marathi list. So you have Marathi, you have everyone's favorite immortal snake, Marathi here. Little Marathi knows Mind Razor because she's pretty much the one who can reliably cast it on an 8 to cast now. But if it does go off, whatever she puts it on is probably going to delete whatever they charge. So you have Marathi and the Shadow Queen by default. Your Hag Queen on Cauldron of Blood, or give out that 5-up save against wounds, not mortal wounds anymore, with the Iron Circlet to reroll your prayer rolls of 1, I believe that's what that artifact does. Blessing of Cain let somebody reroll those save rolls, just makes them very resilient to just regular damage, especially shooting or something at range. Throw Blessing of Cain on a unit that can stay in the command trait aura. It's on a 5-up reroll and feel no pain. An extra Hag Queen for more prayers. Catechism of Murder gives exploding 6s. 50 Witch Elves for your battle line. 20 Witch Elves are already super killy with Mind Razor on them will delete whatever they charge. 10 Life Takers in 2 groups of 5 to sit off the board and wait until you leave an objective, and they come down, shoot, walk up to the objective, and it's their objective. And then 10 Bloodstalkers to either fight or not fight, to shoot in the hero phase if you get too close to them, because Marathi can hand out fight or shoot in the hero phase. We'll just pop that on those Bloodstalkers so they can either start whittling down those units with 2 shots each, doing 6s doing mortal wounds. They can, between the hero phase and the shooting phase, they can whittle down big units, or they can just walk up and then snipe out all your tiny support heroes. And then even if they do get into combat, if they need to charge across into combat, they're not awful in melee. They're not Blood Sisters, but with Mind Razor, they're not awful either. I don't remember what goes in the Cauldron Guard Battalion because I don't actually have the doc book.
It's the 2 20 blocks of witches and the two Life Taker squads.
Okay.
It's +1 to charge and +1 to run for those 4 units.
Hey, what is a Mind Razor?
Oh, and I'm gonna guess he has the Cauldron, the Cauldron in there too.
Yeah. Are the Life Takers the shooty ones or the melee ones?
Melee.
Melee. Okay, I got that wrong. Life Takers are the melee.
What does a Mind Razor do again?
Mind Razor gives them additional rend, and if they charge, they get a bonus damage.
Yeah.
Well,
+1 rend to all their weapons, and then if they
And
charge,
it's really cast on a 7 because Marathi Cain has a built-in +1.
Well, yeah, it's cast on an 8 because you have to if she does get it off, if she rolls a 7, it'll go to an 8, and for unbinding, it's still an 8.
Right.
But yeah, she only needs to roll a 7, so it's statistically likely that Marathi will get it off. Not guaranteed, obviously, but there's a little way to guarantee that in this army. So. And
then since he's Hagnar, his Witchbrew goes off on 4+ turn 1 instead of 5+.
Yes, his army wide, he's 1 further on the Daughter of Cain round mechanics. So every round they get something better that reroll 1s to hit, reroll 1s to wound, reroll 1s to run and charge, etc. And so Hagnar lets them start a cycle ahead on that, which also makes Witchbrew go off more reliably each round. Michael's Bone Boys, Catacross and the Bone Boys. I love the Death Riders, so I really enjoy this list. This list has 1 hero. It's the big man himself, Catacross and his little entourage of dudes. They're sitting there to steal your command points, to give you -1 to hit, and to give everything in his army +1 to hit and +1 to save. and to regenerate things every turn. The two big blobs of Death Riders are, there's 3 wounds a pop on a 4-up, 3-up under Cataclysm save. They move 12 inches or 15 inches if you spend Relentless Discipline on them. They can jet around the board real quick. They're tanky. They do plenty of damage under Cataclysm's buff. They can do mortal wounds on the charge for a Relentless Discipline point. Also, just take up a bunch of board space if they want to, depending on how you orient those cavalry bases. Or they also can get a good piling with their mortal wound charge. If they only tag you with a few, they can still get a 6-inch pylon off that and get a surprising number of models into combat. Basically, just big blobs of Cavalos. He can regenerate 1 into each group from Cataclysm each turn. Very murdery. And then another unit of 10 Mortek Guard just to fill out the battle line. And then 2 Mortek Crawlers, which will either devastate your entire army or do nothing the whole game, depending on what you're up against and how you roll. When they work, they really work. No rend, but 5 damage a pop means they will delete things if they get in and you fail your saves. But if you pass your saves or your army has pretty good saves across the board, then the crawlers just really struggle to make up their points. But on the games they win, they win really hard. On the games they lose, they just they struggle. I mean, you can still get some use out of it. They still have those other shots to snipe about support heroes or to target really low bravery hordes. So you can still definitely get use out of them, and they're never useless, even if sometimes they feel like that when I'm rolling for them and everyone makes their armor saves. But that's just the nature of no rend weapons. And when they get through those armor saves, they hurt. Nita's Deepkin list. For those of you who saw on I think the virtual Warhammer Con that we had last year, this is the Aztec Deepkin. Beautiful army, 2 Eidolons in it, an Achillean King with I actually don't know, not familiar with all the stuff. I know Cloud of Midnight's the thing that lets you turn off being fought or shot or targeted at all in one phase. The various for that, Soul Scryer to stand off the board and take something with it, come in and then deep strike something in and get a plus to charge. 9 eels, and a big block of 30 thralls. I don't think there's a hurdle in this list, so I actually don't know if Killing Corpse is usable here. That might be wrong, but I'll have to double check that. My Sylvaneth list. This is the what I like to call it, tons and tons of Kurnoth Hunters. There are, I think, 15 Kurnoth Hunters in this list. You have your Arch Revenant to buff them up wherever they are on the board, and also kind of run around and do stuff. The Branch Wraith to sit in the back and summon Dryads to teleport around and grab objectives. Field Ancient to pop down that free Wildwood that he gets, and then kind of move around and do some other castings and healing. Maybe pop Kurnoth Hunters back. 10 Dryads and 3 units of 5 Spike Revenants, just as small chaff units to go grab objectives. If they die, it's not that big of a deal because you have 5 Tree Revenants sitting in the back to deep strike anywhere, and you have 15 Kurnoth Hunters to either start in the woods or to sit in the back and wait to deep strike. Italian for Outcast is like the Spike Revenants and the Branch Wraith, I believe. Which just gives them some bravery shenanigans, but it's really just for like the command point and the artifact. The Endless spells for the Spite Swarm Hive let you give out +3 to charge to anything that's within 9 inches of it when it goes down. It's on like a 2-up every turn. You can either give them reroll once to save or +3 to charge. This whole list is in Dreadwood, so the whole gimmick here is that anything in the army can deep strike 9 inches away from opponents with a command point. Doesn't have to be near Wildwoods. It doesn't have to be specifically a specific unit. So you can sit those Kurnoth Hunters in the back, cast a Spite Storm Hive next to them, so they get that +3 to charge, and then deep strike them somewhere vulnerable. And then your Kurnoth Hunters are making a 6-inch charge. They can always re-roll it because the Kurnoth Hunters always count as being in range of a command heroes for command abilities, so they're always in range for a re-roll. To get that 6-inch charge in, and then they're always in range for command abilities to get buffed for extra attacks and things like that. So really, the big Kurnoth Hunter hammers here can kind of just kind of choose to pick their fights as long because you don't even need to have them up anywhere where they're really threatened by anything. You can kind of leave them in the back with the spike, like where you're going to put down Spites from Hive, throw it down, and then just start bouncing them out for the. If you have Wildwoods out for them to deep strike too, great. You could put them next to them and make those 6-inch charges. If not, your opponent has to zone basically their entire army. Otherwise, there's going to be 6 Kurnoth Hunters getting slammed up into whatever the weakest part of the army is. Is that the last slide?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, then before we finish, I will pull up CJ's list here since he replaced Jason. It won't be on the screen. I'm just going to pull it up on my phone. For anyone who's in BCP, you can go look at CJ's list while we're doing this. Otherwise, I will just read off what's in the list. CJ is bringing he's bringing one of the new sub factions for Night Hunt, Ragnaros Condemned, from back in BR Bellacore. Which he's bringing Ragnar to count as a. Did he take Ragnar out? Just kidding. He didn't put Ragnar in. He is taking Ragnar's sub faction, but he's actually taking the battalion to make a Linder count as a general, that the Star won't require. So a Linder's showing up. You have a Spirit of Torment. You have a Guardian of Souls, the typical Night Hunt heroes. You got one big blob of 9 Spirit Hosts and 10 blocks of Chain Rasp Hordes. You got a big block of 20 Dread Scythe Harridans. They're bravery shenanigans, and just because they're pretty murdery. 2 units of 4 Banshees, and then 2 units of 5 Revenants, and a Black Coach. So kind of similar to the Night Hunt list. Really, this list wants to go down and just kind of bog you down with the Spirit Hosts or with those big blob units, while the smaller units kind of just dart around and kill your squishy stuff. Really just wants to outmaneuver you and survive long enough to outscore you on the objectives. Well, it has you kind of like pinned in place. That is every list that's going to be there on Saturday.
Cool.
Thanks for taking time to do this. It's actually really nice to have a lot of the pre-game discussion taken care of in advance, so we can focus on getting, playing the game and making rounds finish on time. That's actually a great idea. I really like that.
Oh,
Yeah,
Matt joined. Oh, I'm bummed.
Yeah, the hope here was that, with everyone being able to see all these lists and kind of get like a little rundown on them, that you don't have to take the time. Like, obviously everyone should still kind of give like a list of like, this is like what this does, this is what my army does, but hopefully everyone kind of walks in with a better idea. Like when you see some of these lists, like, oh, I remember this
Exactly.
army's like kind of thing, supposed to do like this.
Now I won't be shook when when somebody runs their gimmick against me. Like, man, I didn't know about that. I didn't know you could do 30, 40, 60 mortal wounds with Scarbrand or all those Archeon combinations and with Zeech there. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, it's just it looks like a lot of interesting lists, a lot of really fun lists. It's I'm hoping everyone has a good time. I think it'll be a fun set of games. I don't think anything on there was particularly unfun for anyone else or anything like that. So.
I mean, cheers to the first in-person tournament back for most of us, I think.
Yeah, and also cheers for what's probably the last 2.0 tournament that we're gonna have.
Yeah.
This is a final for a lot of things.
And for everyone who's here, just to repeat for awareness, the tournament does start at 1 on Saturday. I would like everyone to be there, obviously, but I would like people to not be checking in at 1. I would like for us the first game to start, because in order for each game to have a good amount of round time, and also for us to not be there super late. I'm hoping to have everyone out of there by 9. There won't be like a long lunch break since it takes place after lunch, so please eat before you show up. There will be breaks between rounds, obviously, like just like a smaller breaks, but not like a larger break for food or anything like that. There will be a longer break between the rounds when we decide to do the painting, which I think will be after round 1. Which have everyone set out their stuff. It'll be a voting system for painting. We'll have chips, so we'll explain it all at the time. But I would enjoy if everyone was there and checked in by 1, so we could get started as quickly as possible and get the rounds going.
Well, all right.
The Austin guys, you guys already know where I'll be at 11 o'clock, so. Brian, Matt, I guess Matt didn't join. Oh, Jeff, whatever.
What's up?
If you guys are coming down in Capos, I'm going to have a couple before the games.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I don't know how early we'll get there. I don't know. What do you guys want to be at the map list?
Bounty, I'm doing whatever.
Oh, and also to touch on it, just while everyone's here, when you walk in, all the terrain on the board should be set off to the side. There should be a suitable number of pieces for each game. The terrain setup rules are the GHB 2020 rules. It's just you put down your objectives for the battle plans first, you roll off. One person gets to choose whether they want to put down all the terrain or pick their side. After what they pick, one person places all the terrain following the regular rules, which is 3 inches from objectives, 6 inches from the edge of the board, 6 inches from the terrain. The other person then picks which side of the board they want, and then you start doing deployments, starting with the person who put all the terrain down.
Will we be using realm rules or terrain rules?
Terrain is both of those are, if both people would like to use them, go for it. I am not making it mandatory to use realm rules or terrain rules.
Okay, cool, thanks.
So that is up to the players, but typically speaking, I will not. There's not going to be a specific realm for each battle plan, so you may roll for it if you would like, but it is not mandatory.
The entire event's in Realm of Beast, is that what you said?
Yeah, you wish.
The entire time, right?
You're already on focal points the first battle plan, alright? Calm down.
So if I'm setting up terrain, are there any rules I have to follow to set up the terrain, or I can just?
There are rules on it. So there's you should follow the normal flow. So any terrain that goes down before other terrains place. So first you would set down like OBR terrain or Seraphon terrain.
All right.
Then you'd place down the rest of the terrain following the regular rules, or like the GHB rules. The GHB rules are the terrain cannot be within 3 inches of any objectives, within 6 inches of the edge of the board, or within 6 inches of other objectives. And there will be a sheet that has these guidelines on it, like there.
Okay.
But there are some placement rules to it. But instead of avoiding the whole back and forth of like you pick, you go, I go for like placing terrain that they did in like the 2019 GHB, the 2020 GHB just has one person places all of it, the other person then picks which side they want.
It only takes about 2 to 3 minutes. It's crazy fast.
Yeah. It should be pretty quick each time. Like I don't want people to be sitting there and like agonizing over this decision. Like because whatever you say, if one side is significantly worse than the other person's just gonna pick that side. So
Yeah. So if I do something silly like put all the terrain in one territory, run one half the board.
Yeah. Which I mean, like with the terrain placement rules, you kind of won't be able to. Because,
Okay.
It'll force you to spread them out a certain way. You're really just kind of picking which terrain pieces are going to go where, and like some minor adjustments on like placement. So all the terrain will be on the side of the board should be on the side of the board when you guys show up. And once your game's done, we'll have everyone put all the terrain off the side of the board anyway, because everyone's going to be setting up their armies for painting after the first game. So you'll just slide the terrain back off to the side and say, put your army up.
Sounds good. Should be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Ryan, for giving us a rundown on everything.
Yep, it's my pleasure. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask them. Otherwise, I hope to see everyone on Saturday.
Sounds good. All right, thank you.
All right, see ya.
Yeah. Cheers.